Good evening. It's exciting to be here with you tonight. It's exciting that we're going to be going over some really special oils tonight, as well as giving you some in-depth information on the new frankincense Sacra. Very excited to be part of this with you. It's been a phenomenal journey to walk through the doors that we have and to open up and disengage the barriers that's been placed in front of us by a lot of different events that has been completely out of our control, and to see how divine intervention has brought things around to where we have this amazing offering this season. This amazing time of year where people's hearts are softened, where people come together in the attitude of love and giving, is an amazing time. And because of that, we want to share with you the power behind the season, as well as some of the first gifts that were given. I love calling this the first Christmas gifts that were given. So let's go ahead and start and help us understand more about this wonderful essential oil called Hudreira frankincense. It comes from Oman. It is hydrodistilled. It's a thin yellow base note, kind of a medium color, clear to a medium color. It's kind of a fresh, woody, balsamic, kind of a light, fruity aroma with it. Some of its possible uses that we're going to flesh out through this presentation. Anxiety, amazing. Asthma, bronchitis, extreme coughing. Scars, stress, stretch marks, chronic inflammation. Absolutely amazing. Some of the systems that you'll see affected with this essential oil, specifically the frankincense, is going to be the skeletal system, the respiratory system, and the endocrine system. But I want to give you kind of a history of this wonderful, and take you on a journey, and give you a kind of an idea of why this was part of the first Christmas gifts. We look at the tree and how it grows in such a harsh environment. The resin that comes after being injured to protect the tree. So the bark is scored, and really the bark of the gum is really at acceptable quality after 8 years. So it takes 8 years from seedling to when they first start harvesting correctly. A mature tree will yield between 1 to 1.5 kilograms a year of gum. And that's quite a bit when you stop and think about how much gum that is, as you have to go score that. Now there's 3 seasons. They start between March and September. The first season starts in March, where they go out and they score the trees. And you can kind of see the environment that these trees grow in. A very harsh environment, and not an easy thing to get to. And what's amazing about this is that the harsher the environment, it seems to have the better chemotype of essential oil, as well as resin. And now there are many species of frankincense that grow, but the species that we're looking for specifically in this region is the Boswellia sacra. It is the best grade of frankincense specifically grown in this region for years. It's just kind of north east of Salalah, which is an amazing area. Now within Salalah, you'll find the Dufour Mountain Desert, and this desert literally goes right up into the foothills of the Al Hajara mountain range. And the Al Hajara mountain range is huge. It comes across the top and then bends right down, makes almost a 7 when you look at that. And it's quite a heavy mountain range. Now, the word Al-Jara means stony mountain, mountain of stone, rocky outcropping. These are all words that have been used in referring to this. And they raise up from 1,500-foot elevation to over 10,000-foot elevation. It's a fairly substantial mountain range. And as you can see, the rocks and the frankincense, look, it's amazing how they find a little crack in this limestone rock. Man, they just jump right in there and they start their life. And it's really kind of amazing because of this heavy limestone, outcroppings. You see this Hujara of frankincense all over this area. And again, the mountain means stone mountain. And it's just, when it looks at dirt, topsoil, something that is not a lot there in that region. Now, the environment in this region is what affects the chemotype of this amazing essential oil. Because there is just really not a lot of water, even though they have their monsoon season coming in from the ocean, you kind of have to realize that as it hits the coastal area, that's where the water will drop. As it starts going up into the mountain region, you'll see a big change as that water is dropped and moved into the mountain. You'll have a lot of humidity, but the rainfall is less than 1 inch per year. And because of that, you'll see this first harvest in the March area, where they go in and score the trees. You'll get the very first harvest. There's a specific kind of resin that they'll find through that first harvest that they'll collect. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then later there's a second harvest in midsummer, and then a late fall harvest that you'll find some of the beautiful resin that you'll see in this picture here. So as you see the little picture here, you see how they score the tree, and instantly it'll sap up right there. You can literally, as soon as it's scored, you'll actually see the sap starting to weep. In a short period of time, it'll be starting to crust over, and they'll come back in within 10 days, and they'll peel that off. And when they peel it off, they put that in a great bamboo basket that they carry things in, and then they'll take and rescore again the exact same spot. They don't find a new spot to score on. They score the same spot they scored that spring, and it'll begin to start the process all over again. Now, each one of the resin drops is collected, and it is actually graded according to its color and its shape. And the Boswellia sacra has a very pleasant exotic scent when burned as an incense alone or combined with the other resin. And a lot of times you'll see that they'll combine the frankincense and the myrrh together and burn them together. And there's some quite interesting historical facts about why they would do that. Now, when we look at this region and try to understand how the frankincense moved throughout the region, it's kind of fun, because you see that Oman and Yemen were the hubs anciently. And from there, the myrrh and the frankincense went out to the world. And what's amazing is literally there were networks of routes that went all over the world, up to Egypt and on over into Jerusalem, into Greece, up into Rome. Absolutely amazing how these routes went out. But they all centered here, and it was, the thing that was nice about this, being that it was a coastal region, they could bring the frankincense to the coast, get on a boat, go right on up through the Red Sea, right up into the mouth of Egypt there, right on into Jerusalem, or go back around the other way over into Iran, Pakistan, over in the other direction, or drop down into Africa. Absolutely amazing. This is really kind of a hub. And so people from all over the area, the regions, knew of Oman and Yemen. And the trade route was absolutely phenomenal. And it's kind of amazing as we look at that phenomenal trade route, how it moves right on up through there. And cities sprung out of nowhere. This was such a lucrative business that cities sprung up all over the place. And you might be familiar with this picture here. This is the lost city of Petra in Jordan. And some of you might recognize it as in the famous movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's kind of amazing that these facilities are there, and they sprang literally out of nothing. And when there's great wealth, there was great crime or evil, because it follows that. And so the earliest recording account that I could find in the Arabian frankincense and myrrh by the ancient Greeks came from Hodorus, about 500 BC, as well-established trade routes from the southern tip of Arabia all the way up into Greece. And clear back as far as 295 BC, Alexandria the Great he was involved. Oils were taken to him. Resin was taken to him. It was absolutely phenomenal the way the routes would go and the trade. The trade was so intense and so heavy that over time distance, year after year after year, of the caravans traveling, it literally compacted the sand. And all the sand that was not compacted around would shift and move. But even after thousands of years, even today, you can literally see from satellite the little spider trails of where the ancient caravans used to go and deliver their goods. And so when we stop and think about that, and we start thinking about, the three wise men that came bearing gifts. It's kind of interesting as you look at the history, nowhere in the canon of scriptures can you find that there was actually three of them. It really never gives us a number. When they stopped and talked to Herod, it said that the Magi, and so referring to more than one, we know that. But the number three kind of got landed there because of the three gifts, one Magi for each gift that was given. And that's where we get that number. Even in Josephus and some of the ancient writings, I could not find the number. Yep, there was three, 1, 2, 3 are their names. It was just that the Magi came. And so even they, being that they had studied a lot ancient texts and prophecies that was to happen, knew that this was the region that they would need to come through on their journey to Jerusalem to find the recipient of the gifts that they were bearing. Now, frankincense was considered a gift above all, and therefore it is given back as an offering to God and to the gods also of the pagan world. Now, the finest grades of frankincense could command such a price, it was unbelievable. It was actually more valuable than gold itself. And what's amazing, it is a gift for a king. And I want you to keep that in your mind, in your memory here. Frankincense was not only a gift for the gods and the pagan deities, but it was also very telltale of if you gave a gift of frankincense to someone, you would recognize them as someone from a royal heritage. And even today, a large portion of the royal hujera is harvested in Oman, is reserved for the palace of the Sultan of Oman. And that's kind of amazing when you stop and think about that. Tradition is still passing on. Now, I want to talk about the different grades of resin that you find within this region. It's graded by size and color. Now, the royal hojera is a greenness. It is the green color there you'll see on the left. And it is the early season. It is collected from the younger trees of the older frankincense trees. So you get these old frankincense trees that have little shoots that come out, and that's where they would actually collect. And that's not all of the resin that comes out is green. You'll see some green pieces, some golden pieces, and then some brown pieces. And it's divided and separated, and so your green is set aside, and it's called the royal hojera, sacra. And then there's the superior. And the superior is a very high grade of Boswellic sacra resin. The color is really bright yellow to a gold. And sometimes you'll see a little bit of white within the resin. And it's a superior grade, absolutely unbelievable. And then there's a high grade, which is more of your amber color. It's the most bountiful. When they harvest, it'll be the one that they have the biggest pile of when they get the sorting done. And it's very bountiful, and it's very, very readily available. When you go through the Oman area and through the trade routes, you'll find this everywhere. Your green and your gold, very, very difficult to find. Because of course the green is held for the Sultan in the royal courts, and the superior hojera is also held and is such a high quality and a smaller amount that there's not a whole lot of it that you'll find in the trade routes as they mark it through. Now, according to tradition in Oman, as well as based on history and archaeological finds, it is believed that the Hajar was the kingly frankincense presented to the Christ child by the wise men of the East. When a gift was given, anciently and even today, we have to look at the gift of what it's about. Practical utility, personal value, and the symbolic meaning. And we have all these wound into these gifts, which is really kind of amazing. And as we think about that and we ponder, why was this part of the gift that was given? It raises a lot of questions. And there's a lot of conjecture out there. Some people saying this and that. But I kind of want to cut through and get back to, the real tradition, the real knowledge of what has been handed down generation by generation by generation. So you might ask yourself, why would the Magi bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh? In a sense, the early days of the Bible, the scholars and theologians have offered all kinds of interpretations of the meaning, the significance of gold, frankincense, and myrrh that was presented. And so I'd like to just share with you some of the things that I've been able to find over the process of time that I think kind of resonates. And so when you think about that, these three gifts symbolize gold, kingship. We know that. Gold was reserved for kings in basically every culture you can imagine. Frankincense, what was the symbolism there? Priesthood, the holy anointing oil, and myrrh, death. See, it gives us a journey of the life of Christ. You think about how this comes together. We're dealing with birth, adulthood, and death. The three gifts for each stage of his life. And it really starts you to wonder and really think back, wow, these three Magi, they must have not only been of great worth, but they must have been highly educated. They understood the prophecies. They understood that had been foretold. They knew about that. And when they saw the signs in the heavens, they were rejoicing, and they were bringing gifts that would symbolize birth, adulthood, as well as death. So that's kind of amazing when you stop and think about that. There's so much power inside this. So let's just talk about the gold for a second here, guys. Now, as you realize, before we jump in the gold, let's just go back and think about this. As you remember, as they were coming through and they stopped and they saw King Herod, and they talked about this king, this child king. Herod became kind of jealous and ordered the death of all the children from age 2 down. And so, there was some real practical stuff going on here at the time that created a mass exodus. I wouldn't say a mass exodus, but an exodus of Joseph and Mary to Egypt. Well, you think about this, they came to Bethlehem to pay their taxes, and they had not the funds to go into the big hotel. They wound up going into the stable. That's the only place that was open. The other places were already booked up. So their means were not overflowing. And so here now they had to pack up their family and flee from Bethlehem to Egypt to get out of the hands and the wrath of Herod. And so the gold that was brought, just think how, knowing that gift was there, Joseph felt as he gathered up his small little family and hurriedly took them from Bethlehem to save the life of Christ. That gift was far-reaching, not only representing the amazing king that he was, but also giving them the practical means by which they could get to Egypt, where Joseph could set up his trade as a carpenter and earn a living and take care of the family. Absolutely amazing how that is really part of one of these gifts. When we look at the next gift, it starts to become very practical. The frankincense, very practical use. Aside from its monetary value, frankincense was valued for its sweet smell, its incense, its perfume, and its essential oil, its healing powers. The symbolism of frankincense, unbelievable. Here, if you look at it, you see the act of the priesthood, the holy anointing oil that's been referred to in the scriptures. Absolutely amazing as the priests anointed and blessed people. And this was part of the role of the Lamb of God, knowing that he would be sacrificed on our behalf. Absolutely amazing that this represents his adult life as he would exercise those gifts and talents for the benefit of you and I. And then we move to the myrrh. The myrrh, absolutely amazing. The practical use is a bitter oil from the resin of the myrrh tree. Very, again, great economic value for having it, but very beneficial, more to Mary and Joseph in its medical uses. You know, Mary, I'm sure she leaped for joy when she saw that that was one of the gifts, because she knew that she could actually use this to help her to work with infections and scarring and bacteria and other challenges that come along with that. But the symbolism of this also has a great meaning. It has been associated to the embalming or the burial process. And once again, what was one of the products used at the time of Christ's burial? It was myrrh. He was anointed with myrrh. So once again, you kind of look back at the three gifts. They were more than just gifts representing a king, fit for a king. It symbolized all those things that his life would be and would be carried throughout the rest of eternity as we look at those symbolisms and the practical use of each one of those wonderful gifts. And you know, as we stop and think about it, you know, we've got this here opportunity at this time of the year to really open our hearts and give the gifts of health, give the gifts of safety, give the gifts of love. And I really believe with all my being that that was part of those gifts that was brought by the Magi. So what think ye of frankincense? A tree that stands on a rugged terrain. Let's go deeper and understand why this has such a powerful and far-reaching legend all over. Now, few people today are interested in harvesting frankincense that grows in the wild desert of Oman. And today there are only 3 tribes in the Darfur region that continue this tradition. And the reason why is literally if you are not connected somehow to one of these 3 tribes, you do not get the opportunity to get in and buy this directly, because they literally harvest it, and some is taken to the Sultan, the lower class is taken and sold at the market, but your higher class is really reserved. And so if you want any kind of quantity of this, you have to be somehow connected and develop connections with these tribes so that you have the opportunity to get in and get to these oils. And that's why it's taken me so long to acquire the connection to make this possible. And this year we do have this amazing Sacra frankincense because of constant working for the past 20 years to make these connections, to overcome the challenges that lie within the industry. These people have been taken advantage of by multiple people within the industry, and to overcome that fear of dishonesty that they have been confronted with. It was a challenge, and to get past that and to say we now have a connection is amazing. But let's look at some of the studies on this specific frankincense. Now, there's a lot of studies done out there, and they're on different varieties from Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia. But these studies right here are specifically on the Sacra. And here's one study, guys, that I think you'll just absolutely love. This here teaches us, and you can see the graph there, that not only does this frankincense, because high compounds that it has, is able to go in and suppress and destroy bladder cancer, and you can see the graph how incredible that is in just 3 hours. It has the ability to discriminate against good, healthy cells, and it does not attack them, but it creates and introduces cell death, which is called apoptosis in bladder cancer. That is huge. That is so powerful when you stop and look at that. Now, here's what happens is you see the human beings, they have what they've identified is a human bladder cell line. And this cell line is a J82, and it's obtained through a lot of different stuff we won't go into today. But once that line or cell line of mutation happens, you'll have cancer reoccurring. And so it appears in the research, and you can see the research there below, number 1, that it distinguishes this carcinoma and goes right after it. It suppresses the cancer cells and literally causes death. And that's pretty powerful when you stop and look at why. It kind of gives you an understanding why this was such a valued and sought after product. So when we look at the results, literally they did a baseline, they measured it immediately after and the end of radiotherapy when they had a placebo group, and look at that, they had a 75% reduction. After people were radiated for brain cancer, they had a 75% reduction in patients that received the essential oil over the placebo and reducing inflammation in the brain and adding to that the anti-cancer effect of brain cancer. That was pretty impressive when we look at that result in regards to this essential oil. Here's another thing that they found, that the more abundant, the higher molecule weight compound you find in boswellic acid. And here's what's amazing, is you don't find copious amounts, large amounts of boswellic acid because it has a higher molecule rate. But what's amazing is this specific variety of frankincense and the process by which they do the distillation renders amounts of boswellic acid in 3 different chemical compounds to where you see the most amazing, powerful effect on breast cancer cells. This was amazing. All 3 human breast cancer cell lines were sensitive to the essential oil treatment and were reduced and taken right on over to visible cell death. Now, that's kind of amazing. Now here's 2 charts that I wanted to share with you. Guys, it's incredible how it literally caused cell death within 3 hours. Within 3 hours of the targeted breast cancer cells. And look at, you can kind of see the drop down there. The cells that you'll see higher on the graph over here are the normal human cells, and in the cancer cell is the bottom one. You just see how it just dropped it right out. It's absolutely phenomenal how this, from this area works so well. Here's another one with challenges that you have when it comes to chronic colon problems. Now these are significant colon problems where there's cancer. Again, research showed there that it was absolutely phenomenal in bringing down the amount of cancer cells within the colon. Skin cancer, guys, we've used frankincense for a lot of years. The regular frankincense from Oman, it's not the Sacra, the Cartier, and we've had great success. But here's a research showing malignant basal cell carcinoma using frankincense. And the effects is absolutely amazing, not only for the invasive carcinoma, but precancerous conditions that you might see, you know, some lesions that are going on over into cancer. But guys, think about this. The aggressive, the invasive basal cell carcinoma, absolutely amazing. Take a look at these pictures. Here is a lesion. This is before treatment, the top picture. The image taken 3 months later, at 3 months and 1 week of the application site of the frankincense. You can hardly see, no scar. It's completely disappeared. This, guys, is directly from PubMed. These are pictures that I pulled right from PubMed on this. This research came right in from the University of Tel Aviv. Absolutely powerful, the power behind that. If you take a look now at dissection pieces of this cancer, you start to see some pretty powerful stuff. In C through D, you have the biopsy performed, and you can actually see the basal cell carcinoma and its growth patterns. You go from E and F. Here it's after, and you can see that there's a little bit of scarring, but no residual basal cell carcinoma. And of course, your E and F down at the bottom, you'll see there that there's just a small amount of inflammation where the arrow is left over from the basal cell carcinoma, but no malignancy, no cancer, gone. And this is, so not only have the picture on the outside, you actually have the dissection here showing how powerful it is on skin cancer. Here's another one dealing with a carcinoma on the chest. And you can see how large this one is. Here's a fairly large lesion. And so then you have the image taken 3 to 4 months after treatment. So A is the lesion, B is 3 months, and C is 4 months after. And you see the progression of the recession of that skin cancer. Guys, this is not just Dana standing up and tooting his horn. This is the power of this amazing essential oil. Very, very excited about it. So how does it work? It works through apoptosis. It occurs in 2 different ways, which is kind of amazing. And the study has been done on human melanoma cells, and this is how they found that it worked. Literally, the essential oil goes in and stops the cancer cell proliferation. It stops the cell cycle, and it also helps DNA repair because the cancer starts to damage the DNA repair. This is taken right from PubMed, guys. You can see the research right down there below. The other thing that it does is the cancer cell goes in and creates mitosis or apoptosis. It disrupts the cell's life cycle and tells it to die. And so you have 2 different things. It literally goes in and stops the growth of it, and then it tells it to die, and it repairs the damage of the area. Pretty powerful when you stop and see what we have our hands on here. Now, some of the other things in research that you'll find out of different universities, they have found that it literally is one of the best. This specific variety is one of the best anti-inflammatory molecules, bar none. Absolutely amazing. Literally helps prevent the breaking down of cartilage and tissues that causes the condition of systemic inflammation. It has significant reductions of inflammation power within the animal studies, and it also has been seen to be a powerful painkiller for rheumatoid arthritis with people with RA. And that's pretty amazing when you stop and look at that. There's so much that we need to be thankful for this time of the year. Frankincense can help break up phlegm deposits in your respiratory system and your lungs and just clean that out of there. It helps with bronchial conditions, asthma, oral health, antiseptic, bad breath, cavities, toothaches, mouth sores, other infections and lesions. Oral health is just unbelievable. It's one of the main things they use it for there in Oman. You'll see them chewing the resin. You know, it was interesting as I was watching some of the documentaries and things of this area. They would take the Oman resin, the amber resin, they'd bring it in, and what they did is they just did a documentary of the day in life in Omanian. And they would start burning their frankincense early in the morning, and it would be burning all day long. They'd just be adding more to it. At night they would come in and they would put the resin in this little, to me it looked like a little smoker that we use for beehives. And they'd go around and they'd smoke the mattress and the headboard and behind the dresser and all around the room. They'd just smoke everything, just puff it in. And then they came back and they took it out and they set it on the ground and they put this metal tripod over top of the burner, and the smoke is coming up. And then they'd disrobe and take the robes and hang it over the rack, and so the smoke would be smoking the clothes all night long, and they'd go to bed. As I saw that, it kind of intrigued me. It made me stop and really think about this, and so I asked our contact, I said, why do they do that? He said, oh, it's tradition. We've done this generation after generation after generation. I says, but there has to be more to it than just tradition. How did it start? Why did it start? Do you have any ideas? And he kind of went quiet. He says, you know, no one's asked these questions. He says, why are you so interested? And I said, because I want to know everything there is about you, your people, and how this, why, what's going on. I am very intrigued. He said, what do you think? You're asking questions. Do you have some thoughts on this? I said, I do. I just here in America, every now and then, we have a breakout of bed bugs. And I says, when they go in to treat the bed bugs, they treat the bed bugs in the exact same way as I saw in the video. They come and they throw the mattresses away usually. But if they don't, they come in and they treat the mattresses. And they treat behind the headboards. They treat underneath. They treat behind the dressers. And all the places where the bed bugs go and hide and lay their eggs and come back out to feast on whoever is sleeping that night. And he kind of went kind of quiet. He said, yeah, you're right. is true. And I'm going, that's kind of cool. So here it started as a practical application and moved more into more of a tradition. And some of the meanings over time and distance gets lost from that. But it's kind of amazing as they go through the day, not only burning the resin, but chewing on it. You'll see their headdress. They'll actually come up and grab the headdress and wrap it around the burner and just let the smoke come into their face as they breathe that. It's just absolutely amazing because of the antiseptic properties there, the bad breath. And anciently he said we didn't have underarm deodorant. And so we would smoke our clothes to keep it smelling sweet because they didn't bathe that often. And so a lot of amazing things that the frankincense, the myrrh resin is being used for. Now here's a letter from the oncologist letter. It was published late last year. It highlights some of the abilities of the biblical tree to kill cancer cells, specifically the MCF7 and the HS1 cell line. These are the ones that everyone is worried about that are going and getting the immunization called Gardasil, because of these are the ones, the cell lines that go into the breast tumors that show genetic disposition. Literally, guys, this is amazing that an oncologist practice would actually put out a letter talking about this. So when you look at the amazing effect of this oil, it reaches far beyond where it is today. Arguably the most powerful medicinal essential oil out there. Recent research and studies suggest that frankincense not only kills cancer cells but promotes health and vitality in the neighboring non-cancerous cells. Now guys, this is the thing I want to talk to you about, is that it's not we don't want to sit back and wait for the disease. We want to be proactive. We want to prevent. We want to prevent from getting sick, boost your immune system. Simply diffuse, do topical application. These guys are chewing the resin. They're getting the oil. So you think about it, for thousands of years they've been ingesting. They've been diffusing through doing burning in the incense. Because when they burn the resin, it heats it up, the oil flashes, it comes out, they're smelling that, it's landing on their skin. They're doing topical application. They literally make a paste and apply it topically. These are all forms of prevention. Guys, we have that great opportunity at this time. We can diffuse it. We can topically apply it. We can add it to brushing our teeth or capsules or whatever. No different than the ancients have done for thousands of years to prevent sickness, to boost immunity, to develop us into an area of prevention, not, oh, I've got to go cure this. Guys, one of the last things I want to talk about, just a little teeny hit. Boswellic sacred resin powder. The boswellic acid is a very amazing research that's going on. And we have access to this powder from our supplier, and we're excited about it because there is such amazing research just on this compound alone. Now there's a small amount of this here, boswellic acid, that was through the process of distillation, the way they do it, comes into the essential oil. And we're looking 1 to 3%. But the boswellic acid powder is up into the 40 to 60%. There's literally groundbreaking research going on, something that will be coming to you soon from Be Young, that we're very excited about it. So guys, with that being said, let me just recap. 3 amazing products were brought to a small child 2,000 years ago. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. We understand the value of gold. We understand it has also healing properties. The frequency of gold has been used for years for elevating frequency within the human body as well as monetary means. Frankincense, we know it was an amazing gift. You know more about it now. Myrrh, guys, again, in the same class you find with the frankincense. These gifts were given for a very specific reason, to be a foreshadowing of his life, to be the first gifts. May we take this time, this season, to give the gift of health to our family, to give the gift of love, to give the gift of patience. May you enjoy this season. May you be healthy and happy, and may you have a Merry Christmas.